Ms. Arias, the jurors have some additional questions for you. How many times in total did you see Travis's gun?
I can remember 3 specific times. One when I discovered it, another time when I was cleaning that area again, and then on June 4th.
Regarding Daryl and guns, you mentioned he showed you the safety and such. Did he have you practice those things?
No, I didn't even touch it. He just went over it very quickly and then showed me where he kept it while we were on our camping trip.
For verification, were you and Matt McCartney living in separate cities while he was with Bianca?
Yes. I was in Ashland, and he wasn't in a city. He was at Crater Lake, which is it's more a national or state park. It's a resort.
Was it possible that he believed you two were on a break or broken up at that time?
I guess it's possible, but it wasn't any definitive verbiage that we had discussed. So he still came to my house every weekend. We were intimate, so, we didn't break up, but I don't know what he was thinking.
If you still felt threatened after having shot Mr. Alexander, why did you use a knife instead of just shooting again?
Well, I know that I dropped the gun when he hit me, and I don't know where the gun went, because when we fell, it was no longer in my hands, and I don't really remember picking up the knife. I just remember feeling threatened, and he was the immediate threat.
You said you remember putting the knife in the dishwasher after killing Travis, but you also say you don't remember anything after dropping the knife on the bathroom tile, which is correct.
Well, I know that he was trying to pin me down to a black and white answer, but I have a vague memory of putting a knife in the dishwasher. I'm just not sure if that's the memory from June 4th or if I'm confusing that with a prior incident, because I've done dishes in that house many times. And I have mentioned that I do have a vague memory of doing that. And we did use his knife to cut the rope, so it's possible that that knife went back into the dishwasher.
Does being baptized generally require that you follow the doctrine laid out in the Book of Mormon?
Yes, it does.
Did you take photos of injuries to your neck?
I took a photo of myself in the U-Haul truck. It wasn't for the purpose of my injuries on my neck. I don't know if they're visible in that photo. I haven't seen it in years. I know I had makeup on there. I don't know if I'd put makeup on my arms or not. And I had the camera like this, so I don't know if it can be seen on my arms. It was mostly for my face. I think I was wearing a 49er shirt. That's all I can remember. So I know that I put makeup on to hide the bruises, not to make any record of them. That I was trying to not make a record of them.
How many phone calls, texts, and emails were exchanged between you and Travis on Tuesday and early Wednesday morning, June 3 and 4, 2008? What were the times, the length of each communication? And just so the record is clear, you've had the opportunity to review Exhibits 362, 363, and 366. Is that correct?
That's correct. I haven't reviewed it thoroughly, so I'll just need to count real quick. And that was phone calls and text messages between the 3rd and 4th?
Phone calls, texts, and emails.
Okay. I know some of these are duplicates on here. Some of the calls are listed twice, the same call. So I'm not entirely sure, but it looks like somewhere between 5 and 9, I'm guessing, because some are duplicated. So, as far as phone calls, text messages, I know we texted back and forth, but I don't know that there are any text messages from the 3rd that were saved or recovered. And I don't think we emailed on the 3rd or 4th.
Follow up, Mr. Nermy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Arias, a few minutes ago, you were asked about baptism and the Book of Mormon and following the dictates of the church. Do you remember being asked that a few seconds ago?
Yes.
Were you a perfect Mormon?
No, nobody's a perfect Mormon.
And one of the things that you would do when you're not, that you told us when you're not in complete adherence to the Book of Mormon, is speak to the bishop about those discrepancies or misbehaviors, if you will. Is that accurate?
Yeah, if the transgression is serious, you should speak to your bishop. If it's something considered a little bit more minor, then it's more left between you and God rather than actually sitting down with the bishop, which is a more formal procedure for more serious transgressions.
Okay. And consistent with that and consistent with you, the question about being asked about following the doctrine, you, during the course of your relationship with Mr. Alexander, to use your words, had some transgressions, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And so we're clear, you were not a Mormon until you were baptized into the faith after you met Mr. Alexander, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So as it relates to these transgressions that you just told us about, did you ever seek to go to the bishop about these transgressions?
Yes, I did.
And what transgressions specifically are we talking about?
We're talking about sexual sin.
Okay. And sexual sin being that you engaged in with Mr. Alexander, correct?
That's correct.
And we're not talking about any other sexual sin with anyone else since you became a member of the Mormon Church, correct?
That's correct. Travis was the only person that I was with during that time.
Okay. And were you, as it relates to Mr. Alexander, were you encouraged to go to the bishop to talk about these transgressions or not talk about these transgressions with your bishop?
Travis discouraged me.
And as it relates to these transgressions and following the doctrine, after Mr. Alexander died, did you ever go to your bishop or a bishop and speak of these transgressions?
I did talk to him about the sexual transgressions, but I was not in a position where I admitted to him about what actually happened on June 4th.
I'm sorry, the last part of that was what? I just didn't hear it.
What happened on June 4th would also be considered a transgression, and I didn't talk about that with him, but I wanted to talk about all of the sexual sin we were engaging in throughout most of our relationship.
Okay. And you were asked another question about photographing the injuries you occurred on June 4th. Do you recall being asked that question?
Objection. The question involved the injury to the neck, not on anything on June 4th, from the jury.
Approach.
Ms. Arias, I misspoke a bit. As it relates to injuries that you suffered in your neck in April of 2008, did you ever take photographs of those?
I don't think any were captured in the photographs. I was wearing makeup. I never took any photos specifically to photograph the bruises and his finger marks.
And what was the last part of what you said?
The finger marks that he left.
Okay. And he referring to Travis Alexander, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why not? Why didn't you document these injuries?
Well, it's something that I wanted to forget, not something I wanted to focus on and remember. It has a lot to do, again, with the law of attraction, and I would never have thought of incriminating Travis, and it's not anything that I felt like by photographing something or documenting it or writing it down, it solidifies it and it brings it more into, well, it was very much reality, but it solidifies it more and begets more of that stuff, and that's something that I was hoping would go away and end. And I believed it would end after I moved.
Believe what would end?
The physical violence.
You also mentioned earlier that you were ashamed of these injuries. Is that part of the reason why you wouldn't photograph yourself?
Yes, I was definitely ashamed and embarrassed, and I just didn't want people to look at me differently because I put up with that or went through that, or somehow it was my fault because I elicited that from Travis, and I felt like I was just ashamed. Like I didn't want people to know that he did that to me, is all.
And you believe that those injuries were your fault?
Well, I was afraid that I would be perceived that way, and sometimes I did feel like I did things that provoked him.
No further questions.
Mr. Martinez, any follow-up?
With regard to your relationship to Matthew McCartney, in that relationship, ma'am, the question was asked whether or not you were broken up at the time that he was seeing Bianca. Do you remember that?
Objection mischaracterizes the question.
Overruled.
He asked, I think, he or she, I don't know, the question was asked if it's possible that he perceived that, but no, we weren't broken up.
Isn't it true? Do you know somebody named Alice Laviolette? You do know somebody by that name, right?
Yes, I do.
She's someone who's assisting in your defense, correct?
Correct.
She's a social worker, right?
I don't know all of what she does.
Objection, that mischaracterizes her profession.
Isn't it true that you told her that you and Mr. McCartney were already broken up at the time that you confronted Bianca? Yes or no?
I did not tell her that. We broke up afterward.
Pardon?
We broke up after
I know that's what you're saying. I'm asking whether or not you told Miss Laviolette that you and Mr. McCartney were broken up at the time he started to see Bianca.
Ask and answer.
Overruled.
Not when he started, but he continued to after we broke up.
So you weren't broken up at the time that he started to see Bianca, is what you're saying?
That's correct.
And you didn't tell that to Alice Laviolette?
No, I wouldn't have. We were still together.
All right. So, and with regard to the transgressions, you indicated that you did go seek or speak to a bishop, right?
Regarding the sexual transgressions.
And you also said that you didn't tell him everything, so you lied to him, right?
Objection beyond the scope of the question.
Overruled.
Argumentative.
Overruled.
I did not confess that I was the person responsible for Travis's death.
So you lied to him, right?
Well,
Objection argumentative. Asked
Thank
and answered.
You didn't tell the whole story then, right? That's what you said, right?
that would be accurate.
Anything else?
Any more questions from the jury? Counsel, please approach. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all for today. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Please remember the admonition. You are excused. Have a nice evening.
Please stand for the jury.
The record will show the jury has left the courtroom. You may step down, Ms. Arias. Anything else, counsel, for today?